Yeah, I echo exactly those sentiments. And I would also say on legally binding, the point about legally binding, I accept the arguments about legally binding. Is it really legally binding? I mean, for example, the UK has a 34% target in domestic law, but is the UK government going to put themselves in jail if they don't meet it? Well, you know, it's not going to happen. But what it is a signal of intent, a serious signal of political intent, political will, and that's what I was talking about earlier, which is what businesses need in order to make the investments. Because in the end, the action is going to come at that level. It's going to come at, you know, civil society, business, and people level. Governments can set the direction, but the action has to be by the private sector, mostly. So that's my point about legally binding, and I think that's the point that the EU make about legally binding, is that it's the best way of signalling real intent. And I understand that Japan is very serious about climate change and tackling climate change. And all the conversations I have on a daily basis show me that. And I know that Japan shares the goal that the UK and other countries in the EU have of having one deal that includes all of the countries that Christiana talked about as well, all of the countries in the world. And that's what we need to get. That's what we need to get to. I hope I haven't come over as critical either. I'm certainly not critical of Japan, but I would echo the same feeling about opportunity and how you look at this problem. Do you look at it in a conservative way and trying to protect yourself from the cost? There is some cost in mitigating, or do you look at it as an opportunity and look at that cost as an investment in the future and the future prosperity of the country? In terms of the opportunities that low-carbon society presents. I think that would be my point. Thank you.
はい、ではお願いします。
Next, please.
こちらの、はい。
Executive Secretary, to be here in Tokyo during a very busy schedule. And thank you for your very sincere answer to a very sensitive, severe question by Professor Asuka and Mr. Hamanaka. I have some different view about you saying about future mechanisms, but I think this is not a good place to discuss with you, argue with such kind. My question is totally different thing. I'd like to question about the magic word of environmental integrity. During the discussion or negotiations, sometimes we use a lot of time of environmental integrity, but there is different interpretation, I'm afraid, because sometimes there is a big argument, suddenly we add ensuring the environmental integrity solve everything, but probably it provides a different interpretation, may cause a future risk. So I'd like to know what probably personally think about what is the concept of the environmental integrity? Thank you. My name is Akihiro Kuroki. Thank you.
Christiana, please.
Well, now there's a philosophical question. What is environmental integrity? I would say that environmental integrity at its core is the application of the science. It's the application of IPCC methodologies, and it's the insurance that we all need that that counting tons is being done in a dependable way, that accounting for tons is being done in a dependable way, and that we are, in fact, reflecting in our numbers what the atmosphere sees. And the atmosphere doesn't see the difference between one country and another. What the atmosphere sees is the number of tons that are being emitted, which gases are there, what the lifespan of gases are, what the life cycle is, and what tons are being absorbed, and the difference between those two. So that's where I think environmental integrity comes in, which is if you lived up in the atmosphere, what would you see, and how do you count that?
どうでハッピーというかどうでしょうかよろしいですか。はい。他にご質問はありませんでしょうか。
Any other questions from the floor? Person at the very end of the room. My name is Honda. Thank you very much for your insightful talk this morning. 193 countries in the world are negotiating, and moving toward the same direction is an ideal answer. And that goal lies in the creation of a low-carbon society. I've been working in the world, but I think that there are three important things. One is to keep promise, and two is to remove barriers between the countries, and three is to open up themselves, as well as to establish a equitable relationship on an equal footing. And I think that these needs to be the key words. But when I read those documents, Secretariat stating the principle of negotiation, and these messages are not too clearly expressed. These 3 points are not well stressed in your documents or policies. And may I have your comment, Madam Executive Secretary?
Well, I certainly agree with you that our documents are written in very strange language. I call the language Docalese, which is the language of the documents that we produce. Maybe that's where the lawyers can help us and come in and try to help us translate these documents, because they're very difficult to understand. I think actually in the bottom, they do represent your 3 very important steps, and I certainly agree with those 3 steps. But I think the way the documents are negotiated and agreed to does not make that transparent. So I very much take your invitation, and one good news that I have for you is that we are currently translating the Cancun agreements into a language that I believe you will see comes closer to your 3 points. And I wasn't able to check our website last night, but the website either last night or tonight will post the translation of the Cancun agreements into language that is much more user-friendly, and that I think is a clearer representation of your 3 points. So I would invite you, when we do post that, to take a look at that and then let us know if we're coming any closer to your aspirations.
はい、他にご質問はいかがでしょうか。
Any other questions from the floor? Okay, let's go lady first. Oh, both of them were ladies, so which?
Ms. Kimiko Hirata. I apologize if it's too straightforward, but I'd like to ask you that if Japan being more flexible on a second commitment period of the Kyoto Protocol, what kind of effect or what kind of consequences do you expect? Is it positive in terms of the negotiation up to Durban and beyond, or is it positive in terms of the environmental integrity?
Well, I do think it's not an answer that I can say categorically yes or no. I think were Japan to have a position that would be more flexible on the second commitment period, I don't think Japan could possibly do that without being very clear as to the conditions precedent that would have to be there in order for Japan to be more flexible. So the very evident point that Japan makes, for example, that Japan sees itself continuing very seriously in climate protection efforts if it also sees comparable efforts from all emitters. That's something that nobody would argue against. I think everybody agrees with that. And so there are ways and ways of expressing position. I think if Japan were more specific on the conditions under which it will continue to participate in a second Kyoto Protocol, that would actually help to open up the conversation so that countries could then begin to engage constructively with Japan about those conditions of engagement. And I think that actually would be a very helpful step on the part of Japan and would allow Japan to continue to maintain its position while at the same time engaging in a constructive conversation with other countries.
はい、他にご質問。
Any other questions from the floor?
My name is Masako Konishi from WWF Japan. Madam Figueres, we are very grateful that you came all over to Japan right now at this timing, because I think it's very important to know, the Japanese people know the correct understanding of the international negotiation, what's going on, because sometimes it's not well understood in Japan. And having said that, my question is to how to differentiate the commitment nature of the United States and the rest of the other developing countries. Because one of the reasons why Japan is not willing to commit itself to the Kyoto Commitment Period 2 is because they want to have under the same framework with the United States. So if it's done under the same kind of COP decision and the Durban, it will really give Japan a good excuse to, not to go to the Kyoto Protocol. So I want to ask that question to also Mr. Oppenheim, the EU perspective. Thank you.